Radial fractures of the ulna, assorted rotator cartilage damage.
How long will he have to be in the cast?
August, minimum.
Oh, no.
Ask anyone who saw it. Rookie of the Year is the fun one, the kid one, the one where a 12-year-old accidentally becomes a major league pitcher and saves the Chicago Cubs. Ha ha ha, cute. Moving on. Don't move on. Because underneath the pratfalls and the crowd scenes and the villain getting hit in the face with a baseball, there is a film that understood something most children's movies are afraid to say out loud. It understood what it feels like to be a child who the adult world has decided is useful. And it understood that the worst thing that can happen to a kid isn't losing. It's winning in a way that costs you something you can never get back. You watched this movie. You probably laughed all the way through. Then it ended, and you felt something you couldn't quite name. Stay with me. We're going to figure out what that was. Let's start with what you think you remember. Henry Rowland, 12 years old, trips over a baseball and breaks his arm. The arm heals wrong. Now he can throw 96 miles an hour. The Chicago Cubs sign him. He pitches, he's famous, he saves the day. The end. That's the surface. And the surface is so breezy, so warmly ridiculous, that most people never look underneath it. Here's a test. Try to tell someone what Rookie of the Year is really about. Go ahead. You'll say something about the arm and then slow down. Because the arm isn't the point. The arm is the disguise. It's the thing Lucas used wrong. That's the wrong director. It's the thing Daniel Stern used to hide the real movie inside. The real movie is about what happens when the world stops seeing a child and starts seeing an asset. How does a movie about a kid throwing a baseball become impossible to shake? Because the feeling is the story. And the feeling, if you sit with it, isn't just fun. It's fun with a clock running underneath. Every scene where Henry is celebrated is also a scene where Henry is disappearing. So what is it counting down to? This is the question almost everyone skips. The movie begins with Henry breaking his arm, not winning a contest, not discovering a gift, breaking something. The extraordinary ability comes out of damage. Why does that matter? Because it tells you exactly what kind of story this is before the first act is over. Henry doesn't earn the arm. He doesn't train for it. It arrives through an accident, which means it was never his in the way that something you build belongs to you. It was loaned to him by circumstance. And the whole film is secretly about what happens when a child is handed something enormous that he never asked for and that the adults around him will spend every waking hour trying to keep. Think about that. A broken arm heals into a weapon, and the adults immediately form a line. His mother's boyfriend, Jack Bradfield, starts calculating. The scout who signs him starts calculating. The front office starts calculating. Everyone in Henry's life suddenly has a number in their head, and that number is not his age. That number is his velocity. Lucas, wrong. Again, this is going to keep happening. Let's just say the film picked a broken arm. Because a broken arm is the most honest image of what childhood fame actually is. Something that shouldn't work the way it works. Something temporary. Something that will eventually heal back to normal. The question the whole movie is circling from the first frame is this. When it heals, who will still be there?
Now, the 3-week anniversary is that's the necklace anniversary, I believe.
Oh, Jack,
Now, think about the adults. Really, look at them. Jack Bradfield, the boyfriend. He's not a villain in the conventional sense. He doesn't twirl a mustache. He's charming, actually. Warm. He says the right things. He tells Henry he's proud of him. He comes to the games. He looks like exactly what a father figure is supposed to look like. And he's hollow all the way through. Every move Jack makes is downstream of one calculation. Henry's arm is worth money. And proximity to Henry's arm is worth money. He doesn't love Henry. He loves what Henry can generate. And here's the quiet horror of it. Henry's mother almost can't see it, because Jack is performing love so competently that the performance is almost indistinguishable from the real thing. You've met this person, not necessarily in baseball, in an office, maybe, in a family, the one who shows up most enthusiastically at precisely the moment there's something to gain, and whose enthusiasm fades in exact proportion to how much of the gain goes away. Jack is the film's central warning. He's not what bad looks like. He's what exploitation looks like when it knows how to smile.
shut up. I'll see you out there.
Then there's Phil Brickma. Phil is a washed-up pitcher, 39 years old. a Cubs veteran who's been on the roster so long he's become furniture. The team is carrying him out of sentiment, and he knows it. His career is ending in the slowest possible way, which is to say, no one is watching it end. And then Henry shows up, and something in Phil reacts to Henry not as a phenomenon but as a person. Watch the scenes between them. Phil doesn't give Henry speeches. He doesn't tell him he's special. He teaches him things. Small, practical things. How to grip the ball, how to read a batter, how to breathe when it's the ninth inning and everything is at stake. He treats Henry like a student, which means he treats Henry like someone with a future that belongs to him. Phil is the only adult in the film who sees a kid. Everyone else sees a pitcher. And because Phil sees a kid, he's the only one Henry actually grows around. There's a version of this film where Phil is played for laughs, the old has-been muttering wisdom nobody wants. But the film knows better. Phil is the only one who will still matter when the arm is gone. Because what he gave Henry isn't dependent on velocity.
Maybe you should be a pitcher, like your father was.
In my dreams.
Hey, hey! Laundry.
Mom.
Here's where it gets strange. Henry's biological father is gone. The film is almost silent on this. There's no big scene where Henry grieves the absent father, no dramatic confrontation, no tearful explanation. The father is just a blank space in the story, except for one thing, the knuckleball. Late in the film, Henry learns that his father threw a knuckleball. That's it. That's all we get. A fact mentioned quietly, almost in passing. The father is not here. But the knuckleball is here, inherited through the bloodline, waiting in Henry's hand without Henry knowing it was there. And then, at the exact moment when Henry has nothing left, when the arm has healed back to normal, when the velocity is gone, when everything the adults prized about him has evaporated, he throws the knuckleball, and it works. Sit with what the film is doing here. The arm that the world wanted was accidental. The pitch that actually wins is inherited. The borrowed gift dissolves. The real gift was always there, passed down from a father who never showed up to give it. You don't have to psychoanalyze Henry to feel what that means. The film isn't being subtle. It's telling you that the things people try to take from you are not the things that define you. The things that define you came from somewhere older than this season, older than this contract, older than anyone who's trying to profit from you right now. The knuckleball is the real inheritance. The 96 miles per hour was just weather.
Come here, Henry. Henry, this is Sal Martinella, the manager of the Chicago Cubs. And this is Henry Rowan Gardner, the next Nolan Ryan.
Look closer at the world around Henry. It isn't random. Every adult in the film is an answer to a single question. What do you do with a child who has something you want? Jack Bradfield takes. He positions himself between Henry and his own future and extracts from the middle. The Cubs front office uses. They sign a 12-year-old with a broken arm because the box office numbers are better when the pitcher is a child. They're not evil. They're institutional, which is somehow worse. Henry's mother, Mary, loves, but she almost lets love be fooled. She nearly loses her son to Jack's performance because she wants the performance to be real badly enough that she accepts it as real. The moment she finally sees Jack clearly is the moment she chooses Henry, and that choice costs her the relationship she thought she wanted. And Phil teaches. He gives without taking. He hands Henry something that will still be there when everything else is gone. These aren't just characters. They're a taxonomy of how adults relate to talented children, and the film knows exactly which one Henry will be okay after. Which one would the adults around you have been?
Slowly. Funky butt-loving.
Then comes the ending, and it's one of the quieter acts of courage in 90s family cinema. Henry's arm heals. The velocity is gone. The thing that made him valuable to everyone except Phil and his mother is simply no longer there. He walks to the mound in the final game with nothing. No 96 miles per hour, no freak biology, just a 12-year-old kid standing on a major league pitcher's mound with a knuckleball he learned about from a ghost. He strikes out the batter, not with power, with knowledge, with something inherited, with the thing that was always his. And then he goes back to being a kid. A normal ending to this film would have kept the arm, would have given Henry some movie logic reason to stay exceptional, to stay famous, to stay useful to the institution. That's what the genre usually demands. The extraordinary thing must remain extraordinary at the curtain call, so the audience leaves feeling elevated. This film lets Henry go back to Little League, lets him be ordinary, lets the arm return to what it was before the accident, and frames this not as a loss, but as a restoration. Think about what that's saying. The whole movie, the world has been telling Henry that his value is his ability. The ending says, your value was never your ability. The ability was a season. You are longer than a season. That's not a children's movie lesson. That's a thing most adults spend decades learning and some never do. Here's something we forget. This came out at a specific moment.
And the bitch.
Hi, honey.
Mom, watch this. Wait!
1993. The sports celebrity machine was running at full speed. Michael Jordan was at his peak. The business of child prodigies in tennis, in gymnastics, in figure skating was producing headlines constantly about how young you could be and still be fully owned by your sport. The pressure on young athletes was visible and documented, and mostly unremarked upon because winning was winning and the industry required it. Rookie of the Year walks into that moment and says, "What does this actually feel like from inside the kid?" The film isn't angry about it. It doesn't make speeches. It just follows Henry through a season of being exactly what adults in positions of power need him to be, and it lets you watch his face while it's happening, and it trusts you to feel the weight of it without underlining anything. That trust is rare. Most films about talented children either celebrate the talent without complication or turn the exploitation into melodrama. This one does neither. It just shows you the machine and puts a 12-year-old inside it and asks you to pay attention. When Jack is finally gone, when the Cubs contract is over, when the cameras have moved on to the next story, Henry still has his mother, still has Phil, still has the knuckleball from a father he never met. The film is asking what you keep when the season ends, and it's answering with the things nobody tried to own. So after all of it, what was Rookie of the Year really about?
Autographs after the game.
Wait! I'm Henry Rowan Gardner.
Not baseball, not the Cubs, not even the arm. It was about the moment a child learns the difference between being loved and being needed, about the specific feeling of being surrounded by people who are enthusiastic about you and slowly understanding that their enthusiasm is conditional on something you didn't earn and can't keep, and it was about the thing that survives that understanding. Henry comes out of the season with less than he went in with on paper. No contract, no velocity, no headlines. But he comes out knowing who stayed when the arm went quiet. He comes out knowing that what Phil gave him couldn't be revoked when the scouting report changed. He comes out knowing his mother chose him over the performance she'd been offered. And he comes out knowing about the knuckleball, knowing that something was passed down to him through a bloodline he couldn't see, from a father who was gone before he had a chance to arrive. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. Everybody has a version of this story. Yours didn't involve Wrigley Field, but you had a season where something made you briefly exceptional to the people around you. And you watched what happened to those people when the season ended. Who stayed? Who had already started calculating the exit? The film was specific enough, one kid, one arm, one summer in Chicago, that it became universal. It wasn't filming Henry's story, it was filming yours. The one you don't have a name for yet, the one you're still sorting through, that's why it never fades. You don't outgrow it, you grow into it. The older you get, the more you understand what Henry was being protected from, and the more you understand how rare it is to find a Phil Brickma in a room full of Jack Bradfields.
No, I want to make sure you get in okay.
None of the other Cub moms are gonna be there.
Okay.
So why hasn't anyone made this film again? People have tried. The genre keeps producing children with gift stories. None of them sit the same way, because this one did something the modern version forgot how to do. It trusted the kid, it trusted Henry to be confused, to be used, to make mistakes in the direction of wanting to be loved, without turning those mistakes into lessons the film explains to you. It let the exploitation be uncomfortable without resolving it cleanly. It let Jack be charming enough that you understand why Mary believed him. It never made the easy choice of making the bad guy obviously bad. And it was brave enough to give Henry an ending where he doesn't get to keep the extraordinary thing. He throws the knuckleball and goes home. The credits roll on a child who is allowed to go back to being a child. That's harder to write than it sounds. The instinct is always to give the hero something to hold on to at the end, to let the gift stay, to make the arc upward, to make sure the audience leaves feeling that exceptional people get to stay exceptional. Rookie of the Year let the arm go, and it made you feel that this was the victory. Not keeping the 96 miles per hour, keeping the things that were never about the 96 miles per hour. That's craftsmanship. That's a film that loved Henry enough to return him to himself. So the next time someone calls it the fun one, the silly one, the one where the kid accidentally throws 100 miles an hour, let them. They're not wrong. They just stopped at the surface. You know what's underneath now. It's a film about a kid who was briefly everything the world wanted him to be. and who came out the other side knowing that the world's version of him was never the real one. Made by people who understood that children are not assets. Made for children who were starting to suspect that some of the adults around them hadn't figured that out yet. That's why it stayed. That's why it was never replaced. What did the arm cost him? And what did losing it give back?